Good morning, everyone. This is Valerie Gupte from People Matters, and we are back with another exciting virtual session in partnership with Darwinbox on the topic Driving Digital HR for a Large and Distributed Workforce. Driving an HR technology transformation is no easy feat, even more so when it involves a large and distributed workforce. Be it the complexity of processes, elaborate organization structures, multiple levels of approvals, or the efforts needed towards change management. HRs and HR leaders are presented with various challenges at every step of this journey. Learn more about various variables, obstacles involved in a transformation project and problem solving. Also, this session will cover some important aspects on how to identify the need and build the starting ground for a transformation journey, how to build a case for change and ensure stakeholder buy in within your organizations, how to identify not just the best solution, but the right solution for your specific need. And also, you'll know from this session how to handle change management while implementing the solution. To take us through their expert views, we have today with us Deepak Rao, who is the CHRO of Bisleri International, Manoj Kumar, who is the SVP of Aarti Industries, and Himanshu Kumar, who is the Director of Customer Success at Darwinbox. Deepak is a professional with experience of more than 20 years spanning across various industries like BFSI, manufacturing, retail, and restructuring. Deepak Rao has led various transformations in the past, such as JSW infrastructure. Manoj Kumar, a thought leader, has over 20 years of experience and has worked for organizations like Hindalco and Vedanta Resources. He has spearheaded strategic HR initiatives in areas of talent management, digital HR, and organization culture. Himanshu Kumar. Let me introduce Himanshu Kumar for this session. He leads customer success function at Darwinbox. He has cross-functional experience of more than 10 years, spanning across HR consulting, product development, strategy, marketing, and operations. An XLRI alumnus, Himanshu has worked for organizations like EY and the Tata Group. So I would like to take this opportunity to invite Himanshu to share his views.
Hello.
It's nice to have you here.
Hey, hi, Valerie. Thank you so much for the introduction for all of us. It is definitely a pleasure talking to both Manoj and Deepak over here, who have immense experience in the HR industry and will share our views. Welcome everyone who has joined us for this session. What we would be touching in this session, as Valerie already talked about, is the digital transformation for large and distributed workforce, and what are the things that one needs to keep in mind when we are going for such digital HR transformation. What I'll do now is I'll just share my screen, and I'll share a presentation that will guide us through this session.
Perfect. So while you're doing that, Himanshu, I would just like to take this opportunity to remind the audience that we have saved the question and answer session towards the end for you. We have some time. So please do share your questions in the chat section on your right. And our speakers would be more than happy to take those questions for you towards the end. Over to you, Himanshu. Please,
Great.
looking forward to what you have to share.
Thanks, Valerie. Um, so yeah, I would just start with statistics because numbers is what gives us most confidence, and numbers speak for themselves. If we see in the last 2 years, and this is a research and survey done by KPMG, we have seen more than 50% of the organizations having invested in HR technology system in the recent past to achieve a digital era for HR. But what we have also heard across the board, and this has been our experience as well, when we are going with digital transformation, it is not only about IT, It is more about the other factors that are involved. And we did some research on our own, and we did a study where, I mean, again, it might sound very cliche, but it is actually bringing the three components of technology, people, and process together to achieve the true meaning of digital HR transformation and really achieve a value out of it. And while we were doing this research and we were talking to our partners, as rightly even that came out in the research, only one third of it was regarding the HCM platform that contributed to the success of digital transformation. There were other softer aspects like understanding stakeholder expectation, managing expectation throughout the process of implementation, the aspect of understanding the current process and undergoing a transformation while moving on to a new system, which contributed equally in this transformation process. And when we talk about a large and distributed workforce, the sheer size of the workforce and the multiple touch points that we have does really contribute complexity of the whole process. And when we are talking about this, again, our experience of delivering and implementing HRMS in more than 150 plus leading enterprises across industry verticals, be it the startup technology space like Swiggy or established players like Arvind, or traditional manufacturing organizations like Bisleri and Aarti, where we have Deepak and Manoj here to share their views, to new age companies like Mintra, we have realized that right planning done before the implementation goes a long way, not only ensuring a smooth implementation, and which means less surprises during the implementation, but also realizing the value that organizations are looking forward to. And while we are building Darwinbox over the past few years, this has been constantly a guiding force where we are continuously working towards the goal of building an end-to-end world-class product in HCM, which is as configurable and as easy to integrate with other partner HR systems so as to help organizations realize this value. And honestly, I mean, here at Darwinbox, our ultimate satisfaction comes from the fact that many of our clients have realized this value, be it a delivery who have been able to drive efficiencies in multiple HR processes, or a Arvind or Mintra who have been able to migrate from the existing HRMS systems in record time, or a GVK Bio who have been able to offer seamless experience to the employees by migrating multiple systems into one. So while I have talked about what are the contributing factors, would really like to understand from both Deepak and Manoj your experiences. You have worked in diversified backgrounds, you have worked with multiple organizations, and you have really led transformation for large and distributed workforce. So would really love to learn from your experience throughout this webinar. Um, and Deepak, I would like to start with you to
Okay.
really understand the first stepping stone from a digital transformation perspective. And the question that I have for you is whenever we go for a change, the first stepping stone is identifying the need for change. And this many a times contributes to the final outcome that we are going to have. The biggest, again, from my experience, the biggest challenge is challenging the status quo as it exists. So from your experience, Deepak, how did you go about either in your current organization or in your past experiences identifying the need to change?
Okay. See, the need for change uh, is usually a business need. When the company realizes that either the competitors are catching up, or they are not at that level of productivity at what the industry is. So at this time, there is a need felt by the top management that yes, they are not performing at the level at which they should, and there is a pressure built at the top level. Now, this could be either a top line or bottom line. So one is there could be a need that we need to increase our sales. Other need could be we need to cut the cost. So there is a latent need for change. Now, where the HR comes in is to help the top management realize this change and facilitate the change, to have dialogue with the employees, and to build a channel or a process for change. So this can be done. One is HR should be having good influence with the employees in terms of a rapport or a personal knowledge as to what are the strengths and weaknesses of specific employees, how we can approach the employees. Second is what are the current systems and what kind of systems need to be bought in. For this, the HR person has to be fairly influential, and he should know whom to influence in the organization and to bring about this change. So, for a HR person, for example, if you take the say for a digital transformation, the IT head could be a very important person for HR with whom he has to work. At the same time, the CEO could also be another person whom the HR head has to influence if changes need to be brought about. So the HR person has to understand that who is the decision maker, who are his customers, and who are the people who are facilitating change. Are there external parties involved? Are there consultants involved? Are they suggesting something? So, an overall 360-degree approach has to be taken by HR to understand who are the players in that game, and who desires what outcome, and who is ready to partner you to achieve the change. I hope that
Okay.
answers.
That definitely does. Manoj, you have been part of multiple organizations, and when you have been part of experiences in delivering this change, can you share something from your experience where how you went about identifying this need to change?
Sure, Himanshu. Thank you so much. And good morning to all my friends who have joined this webinar. Uh, I've worked only on this is my third company, not many companies in last 23 years. And yes, with respect to change, I think change is something which is inevitable, and especially in the last uh, 2 or 3 decades, the all the industries in India and elsewhere, they have really reinvented themselves. So change is, I would call it, change is a growth process, and it's happening all across. And with respect to coming to the question, and my fellow friend Deepak also reinforced how important it is and how to go about it, and what could be the key matrices and deliverables which we should be targeting. In my experience, when you think of a digital journey, that journey need to be thought through with all relevant stakeholders in mind. Though it is often, being HR led by the HR person, but it need to be a common vision. It need to be a part of KPIs of each and every stakeholder, because at the end of the day, we are talking about people, and those people who are working for other teams. So very important, like all other stakeholders have a complete buy-in in the process. Number two is, especially with respect to the manufacturing setup, I can say that where the world lies for manufacturing setup, what kind of world people live. There are I've seen it is at remote places, not much of great connectivity. People are cut off from the various aspects of life. So what is left for them is they spend a greater amount of time in their with their work. So when it comes to that, it means the kind of experience, the employee experience we need to create, it becomes very very important matrices for that location, for that company, to really motivate and keep the employee productive. So we need to be very mindful of the employee experience, and HR plays a very pivotal role in defining and setting the vision for that employee experience. And when I say so, we need to really exploit the digital process while thinking about it. So when I started my journey with the digital platforms way back in 2000, when I was part of the cement business of Grasim, we started with a uh, you know very basic shoot that time of an established company, but we started on a very good kickoff and good motivation, good energy, but we eventually end up, only using one platform, that was performance management system, and nothing came out of it. So that became a, then gradually it became a key, it is only for PMS. We took off on a very high note, and then it eventually landed to that. So somewhere, the success to that was only 10, 15, 20%. Then we thought about it, what can be done, what could be the other initiatives which we start delivering out of this digital, and how we can really influence the people. And so we started working in that direction, and we dig deep on that. So I'll touch upon that maybe in the later questions, I'm sure will come. And so we need to be very clear what kind of KPIs. We need to be clear what employee expects in the process. They want something, very ease of also. It should not be that complex enough so that they start not delivering using it. The utility of the functionalities developed in the process, the dashboards, we really need to train the line managers or the people, our internal customers, how to really use it. So teaching them becomes very, very important. So those are the, basic things if we really looking for early success on the platforms. And so that becomes important when we roll out any new journey, or that's the starting point, in my opinion, when we think of digitization. We need to create enough buy-in in the process. We need to educate and teach people how to use the system effectively. We need to really create enough and I'm sure the business matrices get delivered in the process, whether it respect to productivity, cost. But if we start focusing on the cost from the day one, or start focusing on the automation or reducing people, I think then it takes a different road. I would suggest people who are starting this journey, create a good buy-in, create a, good framework around communication, teaching, and educating people, so that
Right.
the usage towards system goes on. So that's from my end on this. Yeah.
Thank you so much for touching on these aspects, Manoj and Deepak. And if I might summarize, what I really hear is the need for change primarily is derived from the business needs, and it is primarily to deliver the ultimate objective of HR in terms of employee experience, a faster and more efficient process, which are really there for employee to use. And that is what really drives it. I also heard both of you talking about building a case for change and getting people along while driving this change. Again, Manoj, you were touching on your experiences in your Aditya Birla Group days, and you were also talking about your current experience. Deepak also touched on how becomes a very important stakeholder. How do you really build this case for change for a CIO or the other important stakeholders? And who are these stakeholders? Are these just people who are at the top positions, or are they someone else?
A very interesting question, actually, and I can give a little experiential, point of view on this. Uh, actually, as a matter of fact, the stakeholders which primarily everybody would talk about is are your CIO or the CEO or the business leaders. But in real sense, the stakeholders are beyond them. Yeah, they are the people who are using the system. They are the people who are creating a kind of communication or an opinion about it. So we need to be going beyond the world of CEO, CIO, and the business leaders. Yes, they are extremely important in terms of having their buy-in and having their sponsorship on the on the initiative. But if you are looking for real success, then we really need to touch base with all sorts of people. We really need to, effectively tell them that this is how what this system can help you. So I share an example like we invested heavily in one of my company in rolling out the HR ERP. But that HR ERP, the utility was in the range of 50-60%, and not much of success. So, and a lot of money got sunk in the process. And there was the only one requirement was coming, and which we were listening in the HR was, they want real time analytics. And when you think of a real time analytics, most of the HR ERP packages have really not, somehow have has not, people have not thought about it. But if you start listening it and start working in that direction, what are the real time analytics possible from the system? So that is where, when we started working on that, and we cater that requirement, the usage of the system becomes in the early 90s, from variety of people and variety of stakeholders, because they started really getting those inputs which is more comprehensive in nature, more holistic in nature, about the individual, about the location, about the certain processes, and also about something which they can use it in their feedback process, which they can use it in talent management process, which they can use it in describing the individual, or the team members. So we really need to think that, and it has to be real time, because in today's world, information which is even dated about one day dated, it has lost its significance. So it has to be very quick, extremely real time, and then you really can create that punch. So that is important. You need to really hear and need to understand how we can exploit the real business issue here, and how we can use the system for that. So that is briefly from.
Okay. Deepak, I understand from your context, even in your current implementation, you have very powerful stakeholders across the organization and across the regions where you really need or had to sell the point of HRMS and the utility. Can you describe from your experience, how did you really build this case for change and get a stakeholder buy-in across the organization?
Well, as Manoj touched, there was a need for real-time data. So, Bisleri, as an organization, what we realized is we had grown fast, and we had grown across India. We are a different kind of company. We are an FMCG company. So, there is a large workforce which is dispersed. So, we have around 5,000 people which are dispersed around India. We have multiple plants, we have multiple depots, and we have a large distribution system. So as a result, the people movement is very heavy. 30-40% of our workforce is out moving on any given day. They are out traveling, moving, distributing the product. So there was a need felt that one is, we capture real time data. We move away from legacy methods of maintaining data, and we move to the updated current HR practices which are there, the best digital practices, and we go for the best software. So there was actually a major transformation exercise which was happening, which was across many different functions. So HR also underwent this transformation, and there was a need felt to bring in IT support and digitalize the HRMS packages. So at this time, we had a senior management committee, we call it the ManCom, which used to meet, and we had also engaged the services of a very top four consultant. So it was in deliberations of these that it was felt that we needed to bring in a very good package HRMS package, which would not only help to update us and maintain data, but also address the real challenges. For example, when we have 40% of your field force, sales force traveling daily, one is logging the attendance. Because many time a salesman may not come to the office from home, he may straight away travel on the field. So at this time, it is very important for his boss to know that is he on the field, is he traveling, then who are the vendors he has gone to. So this was addressed by the HRMS package. So that was one thing that was very helpful to us. The other things are in terms of the different modules when they talk to each other. They also help to build a strong case that we have a well networked HRMS packages, because of which you are able to add more teeth to the transformation. Because as a CHRO, if I have to add more value, then I have to somewhere increase the productivity or somewhere help to control the cost. So when I get real time data, I'm able to work across different modules and understand what are the implications of one on the other, and help to maintain these two factors. So now, for example, when we do our annual business plan, we used to have challenges of getting the real time data from across the sites, but now it has happened quite quickly. So earlier, what used to happen in probably 30 days, it happened this time in 10 days. And we are also going for our payroll and other modules. So what used to happen, we see a marked change in the number of days earlier what we used to do and now how it is happening. So there's a definite saving of productivity. So when mention to the committee that we'll be able to improve productivity, not only bringing culture and we'll bring change, also engage the employees, but also there is an impact to the top line and bottom line. The change moves much faster, and all the people then come on board. The youngsters and the millennials are also happy because they get to learn something, they get some skills to add on to. For example, if I have a payroll who's doing on legacy, say on Excel sheets, vis-a-vis a payroll person who is working on the latest HRMS packages, the value add for that person is much more, and he is able to build a CV much better. His employability goes up. Forget the fact that he's working for me and is doing a good job, but his career and he learns something. So what we saw is apart from this transformation, there is also a learning culture which comes into the organization. When you're implementing a package, so everybody gets into a learning mode rather than an operational mode, which they were there earlier. So we could see all these things happening, and a case for change was built along these lines.
Great.
Just to Himanshu, just to add a point, I'll take 30 more seconds. The interesting business decisions, were taken when you provide data to your stakeholders and when they get access to data. As a result, in one of our my previous company, we decided to have a digital organization in place. So as a result, we created a digital organization structure for all our businesses and at the corporate function. And a complete varied new set of people entered from business backgrounds, from IT backgrounds, from completely non-HR and non-finance kind of a background entered into the system, and they are have taken over on this agenda of deriving change through the digital process. So that was very interesting, and that was uh, became possible only because with the help of these analytics. Number two is I remember in 2012 when we wanted to establish or we wanted to reinforce in Endalco the reward and recognition culture, rather recognition and appreciation culture. And so there were varied practices which were shop floor practices where some level of appreciation were there and all that. But when we thought, "Okay, let's address this issue through the platform or a digital platform." So I recall, we designed something, and we rolled out some innovative process called praise. Praise stands for promote, recognize, appreciate individual success and excellence. I gave this acronym, I remember, and and still that praised platform is active, and it became a more like a social Facebook in 2012 when the Facebook features were not available. So we contacted one of the company who were in the very early stage, and that became a way of life for people, for a large company like Hindalco, where are more than around 15-20,000 people are there, and at that point of time we opened it for 8-10,000 people, this platform. And that really helped in terms of creating that appreciating culture in the workplace. So the and when we did a lot of social analytics that point of time in 2012, when it was not much talked about, it became a good talking point in the company, good positive talking point, when people are really appreciating and talking to each other, ki this is something they were have never experienced in their life. So that is what the kind of uh, the potential the digital process has if it is conceived really well.
I completely agree with both of you. I mean, and just to share from my experience, that's where whenever we go for implementation, and if I were to summarize what I hear from both of you, a comprehensive stakeholder buy-in is achieved once we show results on the ground, and then it becomes a way of life. And that is the exact reason whenever we even go for implementation, rather than going for a big bang implementation, we always prefer a phased implementation so that we can show the quick wins. And like both of you said, once you start getting data on a real time, you start making business decisions, it really drives the important stakeholders to get on the board and support the whole change management process. So great, perfect. I mean, but while we have been talking about these, and we also talked about the importance of technology in driving this change, it often, and I know both of you have been involved in such situations, it becomes a tough choice to find the right fit. It is not always the best technology platform, but it is also the one ideal for your context. And Deepak, you talked about how you went through that process where you got one of the big four consulting firms involved, and you went through a lot of elaboration and deliberation. Um, what were the factors, especially from your context, that led to these decisions? So, I mean, if you were to summarize for a large and distributed workforce, what are some of those factors that contribute to the right fit technology choice?
Yeah, one is there should be an usage fit. What are the features being featured with the HRMS? Those are the features that you would want to need. For example, we wanted a sales force attendance on a mobile. So that was possible on HRMS, which we chose. There we wanted web check-in. So these are specific points which we wanted, which may or may not be there on all HRMS packages. That is one thing. Second is cloud base was one factor. Apart from that, we have a young workforce. So we were also looking for a unconventional kind of a package, where which would not be a very industry standard, but something different and ahead of its times. So we didn't want to be outdated in the next 5 years or 6 years. We wanted something which will take us to the next 10-15 years in terms of the features and in terms of analytics and usage. So we were looking for a very friendly platform, friendly platform. So when we met different parties, for HRMS, we decided to go with one where we felt the fit, the comfort was much better, and the party bought in, subject matter expertise, into the software and HRMS. So that was our factor which influenced the decision that we wanted to go for a cutting edge technology for our HRMS.
Mhm. Manoj, you have been a veteran in doing these, your views, and I know we touched on it sometime earlier, but just wanted to understand from your experience, how do you define the right fit for any organization?
Yeah, if I really look back, so I really kind of remind of one statement from Albert Einstein I would like to quote. He says, if I were given 1 hour to save the planet, I would spend 59 minutes before defining the problem and 1 minute resolving it. So the solution lies in really be very thought through. Don't get carried away by the big names, and that is where people get stuck. And once such thing gets stuck in your company, the whole objective of it goes on a toss. So be very very mindful, what kind of solution you are entering into. You do not have liberty to really take a decision ki you can get rid of this solution once you have brought it. You have invested money, you have invested resources, you have invested on architecture, IT architecture, all sorts of things. So that liberty does not exist. So one need to be extremely enterprising, I would say, while taking this decision. Don't get really carried away by the sales pitch of the various people coming from these companies and making that pitch. You really need to dig deep, take opinions of wherever they have done that work, have established your own hypothesis on the fit which Deepak talked about. Very very important. What kind of customization is possible? And I'm very surprised and really really the kind of nowadays all this cloud based technology is offering, that custom fit is so important. So we need to understand and bounce all these questions while selecting the things. It need to be really end to end. It need to be nimble and flexible. It need to be adaptable fast and scale up fast. You really can't be thinking. And most very very important for everybody to take cognizance of it is the post implementation support. None of us have that energy, and none of us have that specialty, or none of us have that patience. Once it is done, the post implementation support from the service provider is the most important factor here. And so you need to be thinking completely like a businessman when deciding this. And I would really like to share, take 30-40 seconds more. And when in Aarti we decided to go with the Darwinbox, we actually evaluated all packages available uh, in India and even from outside India. And we took a very very evolved decision with Darwinbox, considering the points which I mentioned. Need to be nimble and flexible, end to end, adaptable and scale up fast, and the post implementation success. And though I am new to Aarti, but I must like to admit and acknowledge here the kind of post implementation support I get from the team is superb. So your task really becomes easy. You really talk to your internal stakeholders in much more different, in a very assertive manner when any challenge comes from them. So that's very important, because you are supported by a partner who is listening you and who is ready to support you in this change process. So these are the few things, Himanshu, which is really really essential, while deciding that. Don't get stuck up and in the process. If you get stuck up, your credibility goes on a toss, your functions image goes on a toss. So don't invest in a technology or in a company, or the kind of people you are dealing coming to you for the selling this products, and only for the sake of having some system in place. It has a far reaching impact on various other items which are very very important from HR point of view.
I can't thank you, Manoj, for your generous words. When really, thanks for appreciating us on a public platform. But I have just one question from both of you, Manoj and Deepak. Just wanted to evaluate on functional and technical requirements. You also talked about the kind of post-implementation support, which also somewhere qualifies in the technical requirement. But are there other factors that you look as the owners of the process in choosing a partner?
Yes, surely, which we mentioned earlier, uh, the deliverables from this, today, as I mentioned, the patience is getting reduced. So you need to be, the features need to be more dashboard oriented, need to be, the social analytics need to be really of higher order. It's like interface, the very seamless integration and, with other systems available in the company, and also, if you decide to adopt some other technology which is not possible within the given, suite from various companies, so how it seamlessly integrate and interface. So those things are becomes very very important. And how, on a quarterly basis or on a periodic basis, the innovations or the new application coming out, so that appetite you need to evaluate in the company, whether they have good R&D team, good technology team with them, who are continuously on innovation, so that you get to see a better, product or services or application in times to come, and which are cost effective. Surely, this cost effective and your employee experience, those are the fundamentals. But on as a ongoing measures, you really need to understand the technological bandwidth of that particular company, their appetite, their own vision, what kind of vision they have for their own company, how they want to grow, which area they want to grow. So talk about that, participate into that, and then you frame up your own initiatives. So these are the few things which readily comes to my mind.
Great. So, Manoj, carrying on this topic, the success of any of these implementation depends on how well you have actually adopted it. So, from your experience, can you talk about some of the adoption measures? You mentioned it right in the beginning as well. How do you really drive it within the organization so that the adoption rate is really high?
So you have to keep the end in sight and in mind always. So when you do planning, so do a thorough work with what is as is and what is going to be, and what point of time this to be will be possible. So you have to think through that. You need to collect the viewpoints of all the key stakeholders. Interestingly, in HR, everybody has a viewpoint, and they feel their viewpoint is the best viewpoint for a particular process and system. But you need to, you really work in a very tactful manner to bring a standardization in those practices. So number one. Number two is you also need to see, whatever you are proposing is not of great inconvenience to the people who are using it. It should ease their life rather than it should make their life complex. And I'm happy to share, the kind of work which is done by these companies. Now, you are talking about, a lot of mobile apps have come who is really handy. I've seen the apps are being used for your PMS process, apps are being used for workforce analytics. So it's readily available. Now we are thinking of smart factories, so that digitization journey is really becoming a game changer. Like in Aarti, we are thinking of smart factories, and in that smart factories, usage of IoT, usage of machine learning, everything is coming into play. And so that aspect, that adoption, in my opinion, it also need to be, of a continuous, of nature. It cannot be just what you decided 6 months back, is limited to that. It need to be continuous. So your milestones and goalposts need to be of continuous nature on adoption. Number two is, and you really cannot be like blindfolded with respect to training and education and teaching on this subject. You need to continuously orient, onboard your people with the features. You need to continuously be talking to them, engaging with them, why they are not using or how they are using it, what are the various challenges they are facing. So those fundamentals you need to do correct. So to enhance the adoption, and most importantly, the kind of younger workforce entering into the system, they just need one-time alignment and onboarding. But then they are very smart in terms of adopting in their day-to-day life. So I've seen in large factories, commodity factories, where large population is there, people are adopting it well. Fortunately, now the IT bandwidth as a country has improved. The availability of network, the downtime is minimized, and all that. So people are doing innovative work with the help of this. In Aarti, like we are in the process of initiating a safety-based assessment for people, wherein safety competence will be evaluated through the system. So we are using the system for safety assessment, and which is a very important business delivery for us. And
Mhm, mhm.
so things like that. So that is how you can really influence the adoption if you touch the real issues and the core issues.
Right. I understand when you have been personally involved in driving adoption at Bisleri. I mean, run through the process and what are the key takeaways?
Come again, I lost you in between, Manshur.
So I was talking to Deepak. Deepak, are you there on call?
Yeah, yeah, I'm there. Yeah, please.
Yeah. So Deepak, just wanted to understand from you. I understand you have been personally involved in driving adoption in your current organization. Just wanted some key takeaways and your experience on how you think adoption can be really accelerated.
Yeah, I mean, so what we did is one is apart from making a business case for introducing an HRMS platform, what we also did is we ran campaigns when we were launching the modules. We ran campaigns across the company asking people, to start coming onto the platform. We had small focus discussions with our HR teams, asking them to interact with the employees and to start wooing them to come on the platform. That was another method which we used. So the HRBP actively involved with the employees, asking them to start coming and start using the modules because they had a personal touch with the employees. Apart from this, we also created super users. So each branch, each region, we said that would have a set of super users who once trained. For example, the HR is a champion user, then these people would be a super user. So they would assist HR and they'll assist the employees to resolve the issues at a local branch level. So these people were specifically trained and they were given separate training programs. So as a result, what we had is we had a bandwidth of people who, apart from HR, were also trained in the expert usage of our HRMS. So the employees would go to this people immediately. These people were available in their location and in their region, so that they got quick responses to their queries or their issues. So that was one. So we use such methods to start improving the adoption rates. We were monitoring adoption rate on almost every 3 days. We used to track the analytics and see how the adoption rates are picking up. So when we started, we introduced the leave module, attendance module. So as a result, over a period of 15 days, we started getting good adoption on that as people started coming onto the system. Now we have used PMS. So PMS is something which all employees, have and would like to be a part of that cycle. So they would have to come on to the, system. Now for this, what we ensuring is that we have training sessions. We have continuous training sessions. Again, the champion users or the super users take the training sessions and familiarize all the employees, as to how to use the module. For example, PMS, we finished training 2,500 people over a period of 10 to 12 days across India. So that was something which we did. Now all the people are in a position to come onto the system and use it. So that the fear which they have as to use a new system, that fear has been reduced, that anxiety has come down, and employees are now looking forward. So now we have started getting queries, how to do this, how to do that. So people have started participating on the software and they are coming onto the system. So I think it's just a matter of time. It will take 3 to 4 months for that usage and familiarity to come in. Once that comes in, then it's a done thing for the employees and become very familiar.
Great. So that's all. It was a very
I
insightful
just,
session.
Himanshu, I just like to add what Deepak mentioned. Two examples I like to add for adoption. And remember in Vedanta, uh, we were planning to do create a buzz around employee connect. Hello. Yeah. So we rolled out app-based Vedanta Connect program, which was really instrumental and transformational in nature in terms of connecting all 12,000 professionals, and we used the app for that, and that was exceedingly successful, initiative, and purely technology has really played a great role in that. So things like that for are very useful or adoption.
Great.
Very.
So I know we are running short of time. Valari, over to you. I know we have a lot of questions, so
Thank you,
for the
Himanshu. It was a very insightful session. I mean, to just listen to you, Deepak, and Manoj talk and actually walk the talent leaders through this journey, which can sometimes get really challenging, especially when you have a large workforce and you want to kind of bring about that change and have that mindset that you should not be afraid of change, as Deepak mentioned, and be ready for that innovation, be it through installing a new software or just kind of learning something new. So over to, we have a couple of minutes for the audience questions that have popped up over here. I think one of the recurring theme in this question is that what Swati has mentioned, how do you select a right technology partner, and what are some key metrics that you have to look at before you select the right partner for you? And I believe Shikha has also asked a similar, and I believe Deepak has also asked a similar thing about what matrix to use to measure the success of change initiatives. So if you could just shed some light on these two questions. Deepak, why don't we start with you first?
Yeah, I'll address Deepak's question that he's asked, that the success of change initiative is not more than 15% across, what could be the major reason for failure. So I think so. Manoj touched one or two points, but again, I'll just raise them again. So one is basically there has to be a collective, felt a need for change. So one is the top management has to be fully aligned, for the change. So that is the first thing which has to be in place. A lack of a case where the top management is not focused and aligned to initiative forward is could lead to higher chances of failure. That is one. The second is selection of the right technology partner in change initiative. That's a very important role. So, are you getting the right thing into your system? So, for that, you need to spend a lot of time. And third, and one of the most critical part is the execution. So, the execution entire process has to be very planned and thorough. So you need a very strong project manager and a good team which has capability and competence to address that initiative and implement it. So the way I look at is, one is top management alignment. Second is getting the right technology or getting the right process for your change, and third is your execution capabilities. Lack of any of these three, any dissonance in these three could cause your initiative to fail. And it's a tough thing for companies to get all the three things together. It's easy to say, very hard to do. So that's why the success rate of initiatives are not that high.
From my end, I think Deepak really summed up very well. I just want to keep it lighter. Don't get carried away by the salespeople pitch on this subject. Just go a little deep, understand the technical bandwidth of the company you are getting engaged into. And number two is you also need to think inward in terms of what are the not so best practices which you can get rid of, though they are well entrenched in your system. You have to have that courage to speak up and get rid of those not so good practices. And that is where the success of lies pretty hard. And there are so many examples, but paucity of time, I want to restrain myself. Third is have a long term and the medium term plan on your digital journey, and go for it. Understand your business well and go for it. You are on mute, looks like.
Yes, I'm back. I'm back. So basically, what you guys said, it really makes sense, especially for the talent leaders who are a part of our audience. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to move to the next question, which Shikha has asked. Shikha is asking whether did you set up a new change management team specifically, and what were the key things that you addressed in change management? So if you could just shed some light on that quickly. Deepak, why don't you start first?
So if you ask me, did you set up a new change management team? Uh, the answer is well, it depends. I mean, we had a top four consultant working with us. So the agenda for change was there. But if you say a new change management team, no. But did you get in new talent? The answer is yes. We got in new talent who could understand and drive the technology forward. Because probably, with the earlier kind of talent, we could not have got the results what we wanted. So, so what would be required is you need to mix and match your old and new. So I won't say 100% change. There could be 20-30% tweaking around with the team, and you may have to add some talent and skill sets to the team, because the old people who have been in the system also know a lot about how things are done and all, and a few of them would be interested in change, definitely. So it's not that all are not for change. So you just need to build up their capability and give them new skill sets and give them new people who can take this change initiative forward. But again, saying this is easy because it would depend upon a situation to situation and case to case. So in our case, this formula worked, where we just took percentages a bit and got in some new people and mix match with the old people who were there. So they have taken it quite well, and we are on the way to success.
Nice. So a balance of fresh ideas coupled with the knowledge and experience that comes with being in an organization for some time. Very well said. So would you mind, Manoj, taking up the question that Himanshu has asked? How to increase adoption specifically in a very resistant team or workforce? I think that's
Nice. I think very important question. Thanks, Himanshu. And uh, I'll give an example here. When we were thinking to roll out praise platform for reward recognition, especially in Hindalco, and Hindalco being a multi-location company and multi-geography company, so it was, if I really if I would have approached to my managing director that time ki this is what I want to do, it I would have met with utter failure. And so what I did, I really thought about it, how this is the need, this is the space where we can enter and really create a fantastic employee experience. So what I did, I really chose the opinion makers from different factories. I contacted them first, sold the concept to them, and took their vibes, took their insights on the process. And second step I did, ki now you have said this is the solution I want to share with you. And the next step is you have to come together to meet up the managing director. And I got that meeting done. In that meeting, when my MD heard the voice of all the key stakeholders, he had no other word but to say yes, yeah, this is the in thing and we have to go for it. And when, so that kind of, when you do work little tactfully and strategically in terms of creating the buy-in from the opinion makers, the adoption becomes really easy. Then is the case is just communicating well enough, and teaching and orienting your people, guiding them for this, and sharing the social analytics on this, or the various workforce analytics through this. I think then adoption is not an issue. Making it user friendly is very, very important. Like you have apps, you have cloud based systems, and so accessibility around the clock, 24/7, home, non-home, etc. So all that is very, very important measures for adoption.
Very well said. So your advice would basically be to kind of back yourself or back your pitch with all the data that you can, with the case studies or real life examples. So thank you for sharing that personal example with us. I would like to call upon Himanshu for and I would for just some closing thoughts regarding this panel, or anything you would like to share with us in your closing thoughts.
Thank you for that, Valerie. I think the panelists, both Deepak and Manoj, really have summed up their experiences, and it has been a very insightful session. Just a couple of points when we are looking at a large and distributed workforce, and I'm trying to summarize whatever I have personally learned through the session. Um, Couple of things that become very important is really understand the need of your workforce and the business. Um, you need to understand the kind of workforce you have, and when you have a large and distributed workforce, you will have a mix of millennials versus people who have been in the system for long, and meeting their needs through a common solution and HCM platform becomes a quite challenging task. So how do you bring in a top end solution which also is intuitive and gives the best user experience, plus is not very difficult to understand? How do you do communication and training and the right change management so that you get the buy-in from all the opinion makers, and these can be across the hierarchy, and that is what really means a success for your change management as well as digital HR transformation. I think that is what I have personally taken away from this session,
Well, those are
and would like to thank Deepak and Manoj for the insightful learnings that they have shared.
That was an amazing summary of all the key takeaways from this webcast. And I would just like to thank all our audience members for staying with us and for your wonderful questions. I know this webinar was quite an extensive one. Please do provide your feedback and your questions in the survey link that we'll be providing in the chat section. Your input really matters. And also, thank you so much to all the panelists here. Himanshu, Manoj, and Deepak, thank you for taking out the time for us. Stay tuned for many more such exciting webcasts. Thank you so much for staying with us, and have a great day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye, Manoj. Bye, Himanshu.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.